Table Talk. Brought to you by Il Figlio Enoteca in Fishkill, New York.
And Dutchess County Tourism.
Today on Table Talk, Scott Rosenberg of Il Figlio in Fishkill, New York. Scott Rosenberg, welcome to this episode of Table Talk.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you here. I haven't seen you in a bit. The last time I saw you, I was in Il Barolotto for a wine dinner, which was amazing. And lots happened with you since then.
Yeah, I've been busy. Yeah, I was busy during the pandemic. I wasn't home baking bread.
You didn't use the pandemic time to start to learn how to home bake your bread?
No, I learned a lot about construction.
Oh man! So you have this beautiful new restaurant behind you, Il Figlio, just down the road.
Yeah, a quarter mile down the road.
Fishkill, New York, for those that don't know.
Yeah, right here in the village of Fishkill still. You know, I had established myself in the village for a really long time, for almost 2 decades. So leaving Fishkill was certainly not an option for me. I love it here, and the Hudson Valley is very much my home. So I wanted to make sure that anyone that had established a relationship with me didn't have to drive too far to continue that relationship.
So Figlio is, I believe, Italian for brother?
The son.
Son. Oh gosh. My Italian teachers would be very disappointed in me.
You get a B+. You were close. It has a really, really interesting kind of meaning to it. For me personally, you know, a lot of people know kind of my journey from working at Il Barolotto for so many years. I mean, I started there when I couldn't even drink, and really learned a lot about not only the restaurant business, but kind of myself as a human. And Il Figlio is a representation of the son basically growing up. It's the next chapter in his life. And that's why the name was so important to me. And it does have really big significance because the son, he evolved, he changed, he grew up a little bit, and now he moved out and he's on his own and he's doing his own thing and, you know, God willing, flourishing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that was that your first job at any restaurant?
No, not my first, but my first important job. Yeah.
Okay.
You know, it was, I'm a graduate of the CIA. It was my first, you know, real adulting job after I graduated. And little did I know that, you know, a part-time waitering position after getting out of school with a bachelor's degree program would lead to me down the road to, you know, becoming a partner in a really successful restaurant, having a great life, and, you know, and then eventually moving on to something like this, which is something I had no idea would turn out this way. It is so much grander than I ever thought it could ever be. So
that's pretty cool. That's back when Eddie Loria was involved with you.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then, when did you, I mean, you started as a waiter. You obviously knew you must have liked the job. Did you to buy your way into a co-ownership position? How did that work?
It's an interesting story. For so many years, I thought I was going to be a chef for the rest of my life. And then the one thing that I realized as you start cooking and working in kitchens is that you have absolutely no idea if your customers are enjoying what you just created. And so that customer interaction, I was really kind of dying for. So, you know, when you go through the culinary, you go through some front of the house table service programs that teach you the basics. I really enjoyed myself. And then right before I started the bachelor's degree program, and I was 18 years old, I grabbed my roommate and I said, you know, I went for dinner at this really cool restaurant in Wappingers Falls. It's called Aroma Osteria. I said, we should get jobs there as waiters while we're going to school part-time. And that's how it started. We lied on our resume and, you know, created this much grander image that we had no experience. We didn't know anything. But we got jobs there as waiters, and we worked throughout our bachelor's program. And, you know, as the story goes, eventually a waiter job turned into a business partnership and a very long, successful business. Yeah.
Did you ever get exposed for being inexperienced as a waiter, despite what your resume said?
Oh, I think everybody knew that. Yeah. But, you know, we learned real quick, you know. everyone does that on their resume when they're young. You know, they got to get in the door somehow.
What are the finances of that? Do you have to come up with a big lump sum of cash, or do you work out like a working arrangement? How do you break in from employee to business partner?
Uh, you have to say a prayer, and you know, there's, I think, many ways of how people get into business these days. You know, you save your money. You depend on people that are close to you, that are around you, to help you get a start. Nowadays, you know, I don't even know how people go into business. You know, starting a business, you know, and I just went through the whole thing myself with Il Figlio. You know, you don't start up an operation or any type of business with $30,000 and a dream. You know, that's $30,000. What does that buy you?
Right.
A couple ovens in my kitchen, and that's it. You know.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's challenging, and you know, doing that for Il Figlio during the pandemic makes you really question what you're doing quite often. Even though maybe I could so humbly say that I do have enough experience, but I never had enough experience to make me feel comfortable doing this during such a very fragile time.
So your preparations to start this restaurant predate the pandemic, and
Yeah,
then
actually, I signed my lease 1 month before the pandemic started.
oh my goodness.
Yeah, so talk about running into the eye of the storm. There was never a time that I said I was going to quit and just stop moving forward, but along that journey, and it was a very interesting one. There are times that, you know, you really question, am I doing the right thing? You know, I think on a good day, you would question yourself, and any restaurateur listening to this probably can sit back and laugh a little bit and say, man, I've been there. And now I'm part of that group that can say, hey, you know, wow, I went through that journey. And going through that journey and building a restaurant and putting it all together on a normal day is challenging enough. Putting it together during a pandemic time with so many hoops to jump through, it definitely tested me as a human being for years to come. So everything here going forward, I feel like is going to be a little bit easier. If
It has to be.
Yeah, you know, I've been thrown a lot of curveballs.
So you have to have a lot of faith in what you're doing and your business model and your idea for what a successful restaurant is to be able to persevere through that. You know, can you dig a little into what the vision is for Il Figlio and perhaps why it's different from, you mentioned it's growing up, it's the son leaving and growing up and being better than the generation before it. Are there any particulars that you could speak to?
Well, the only way this is possible is by having a team that is loyal to you, that believes in what you're doing. So this never would have happened. You know, I only have 2 hands and 2 feet. That cannot build something like this. You have to have people around you that A, have a belief in you, and B, support you, whether that be your dishwasher, whether that be a manager, whether that be your bartender, or whether that be the guy that did the electrical work or the painter in the restaurant. And so through this whole process, I surrounded myself with people that A, I had a relationship with, and B, that believed in what was going to happen. You know, I heard so many times, we can't wait to finish this job because we can't wait to eat here again. You know, and that also kind of speaks to the 19-year-old customer base that I procured for so long at Barilotto. They were displaced for a year, and I got so many amazing messages checking in to see how not only I was doing, but my whole team. And it's very, very powerful. It gives you kind of the fuel to keep on going. And so when we did open, you know, there was a big question mark. Gosh, it's scary out there. Are people going to come out to eat? And well, guess what? They came out. They're ready to come. They're ready to support us. And they basically lay dormant for a year, and they're now out of the shell. And it's been amazing. It's very overwhelming.
The restaurant looks absolutely beautiful. We've seen, I mean, obviously getting a little glimpse behind you now, but also through photos. It looks a little larger than the previous place.
Yeah. So like all things in life, it starts off as a humble thing and then turns into something quite grand. And that's exactly what happened. It's interesting how that evolved because I'm a restaurant guy and I'm not a construction guy. I had a distinct vision on what I wanted to do with this restaurant. And a very dear friend of mine who is in high-end construction and renovation work in New York City, him and his brother took a drive up here. We sat inside this concrete shell of a space, and they looked at me and they said, "You're in way over your head." And I got very nervous. And like many things—
In what way? That it had too much seating, or?
No, just I was about to dive in head first into something that I was not an expert in. And so, like anything in life, it seems like just when you think that it isn't going to work out, somebody kind of slides in and there's like this divine intervention. Well, that happened. So a Finnish carpenter made a recommendation to me and he said, "You need to talk to this guy. I don't know if he's going to be available, but his name is Ford Skoglund." And I said, "Well, who the hell has a name Ford?" That's the first thing I said. So I do what everyone today does. We don't call them up. We send them a message on Instagram. So I send him a message on Instagram. He responds, and we agree to meet in my empty concrete shell of a restaurant on a picnic table and 2 plastic chairs on a Sunday afternoon. We sat there for 3 hours and we just, shot the shit and talked about life, talked about, restaurants and so on and so forth. And I got to know a little bit more about this guy. And, the pandemic had really kind of brought him more up into the Hudson Valley. This is a designer that's opened 37 restaurants between the United States and London.
Okay.
And he really primarily works in New York City. He also has a home in Millbrook. So nobody was hanging out in New York City during the pandemic. There's nothing to do. So let's go upstate to my weekend home in Millbrook. We're going to hang by the pool. And he says, "I have a small space of time that this might work perfect for." So the connection was made, and it was one of the most grateful connections ever in my life. Ford came on at a perfect time and took this dream that I had, and they were distinct visions, and he made them applicable to a restaurant, and he made them functional. And then what he did is he made the whole place sparkle. And I couldn't be more happy with the design. When people come in here, their jaw drops because they're so overwhelmed, they can't believe they're in Fishkill. And that was the whole idea, is that we literally transport you somewhere else when you walk in. And to get back to your question about the size, yes, there was a couple things that needed to happen moving away from Bariloto. And that was, well, you can never get a parking spot at Bariloto. It was so tight. So we fixed that. I have the biggest parking lot in all of Fishkill. There was no place to do a party at Fishkill. You sat there for a wine dinner and it was so
we were right in the middle of the restaurant. Yeah,
exactly, because it really was never meant for that. So now I have areas to do private events. We needed a bigger bar. There was too much crowding going on at the bar. And so all these kind of question marks are now satisfied here with Il Figlio. And then what better time to have it happen than a time when maybe everyone needs a little bit of extra elbow room when they go out.
Sure.
And so this is like the most comfortable restaurant to be at right now, considering the times. But Ford was a blessing in disguise, and it came into the right time. And
would you say that he took your abstract vision and made it into a reality with specific suggestions you weren't really thinking about?
Yeah, I think he took like a dream and made it functional.
We have a saying here: we don't know what we don't know.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you talk to somebody who's got that experience and has that resume and pedigree, that they can translate what you're talking about into a functional result. That's impressive.
Yeah, and it was a big risk because this was essentially a stranger, but that stranger has now turned into a dear friend.
That's great.
He's long done with this job, but we still converse.
Is there something in particular that he did? Like, give me one example where you weren't thinking about this and then he mentioned it and it was like, wow, that's so obvious and such a good idea.
Well, there's just so many details in this restaurant that almost made me feel a little uncomfortable on going with it. And just like when a chef would create a dish that you just aren't convinced about, you have to say, listen, cook the dish and let me taste it. And you then have the option to say, you know what, this is magical, or you know what, I really just don't care for this combination. And maybe it's just me, but Ford pushed me to have faith in the guy. And his track record proved effective, because now there are things in this restaurant that I would have never thought about that now get commented on constantly. And things that I was a little nervous about having installed into the restaurant, such
Like
as
what?
like a bar tile that was handmade in California, that I was
Okay.
like, I'm not sure how this is going to work. And he goes, trust the process. He goes, and he says, I would never push you towards something if I didn't believe.
What is that? Just on the bar top itself, having
No,
tile?
it's the actual backsplash of the bar.
Oh, okay.
It's a mixture of antique glass, but there are these beautiful handmade tiles that actually are 3D and they're textured, made by some hippies out in California that took their sweet time making them, and caused us.
Made them with love, though.
Yeah, they were made with lots of love. Now they become the statement piece when anybody ever passes by the bar and they go, wow, those tiles are just stunning. And you know, there are items like that, like the lighting that go into this restaurant that probably I would have never thought about selecting. And his ability to source things, it made me value what an interior designer does, but also an interior designer that has an understanding of architecture and also an understanding of you know, how a restaurant works. You know, it's all fine and dandy to make it pretty, but make it durable. This restaurant has to last for years to come. And
So you mentioned that this evokes this, I can't believe I'm in Fishkill feeling.
well, I mean, let's be honest. I'm in a strip mall in the village of Fishkill, you know? So, you know, it's.
So where does the restaurant take you, though? How does it make you feel? Do you transcend to your favorite restaurants in the world? I mean, do you really get that kind of escape walking through the doors?
No, it's just something, you know, it takes you to like a real expression of me. This is me. It's, you know, those who know me very well, they come in, they go, oh my God, this restaurant just speaks you. It's not a copy of anything else. It's just, it's an expression of me. I come and sit in this restaurant in the morning and have my coffee, and I admire the colors. I admire how comfortable it feels. And it's, you know, it is distinctly Italian. There's no getting around that. That's my wheelhouse. But does it abbreviate on so many other things? Yes. You know, do I play my music that I like in here? Yeah, of course I do. You know, it's me. This is Scott's. You know, it's an expression of what I like.
Has the menu evolved from Il Barotto, or is it
It has
the same theme?
So, you know, the base. So the formula is the same. Somebody very, very smart said something to me before I opened up. They go, you know, I hope you're not changing your menu at all. And I said, well, I'm changing it a little bit. And they said, well, don't get too crazy. You want to know why? There's been so much change in the last year. You know what everybody wants? Something familiar.
Yeah.
So what we did very carefully was leave some familiar things that are going to be an homage to what I did for 19 years. Because we can't just put a period at the end of the sentence and say, let's forget about Barilotto. I'm not going to ever forget about what I did there for 19
Sure.
years. I was so proud of that restaurant, and I will always be proud of it.
And rightfully so. It's a wonderful, wonderful restaurant.
Thank you. And so there was little earmarks from that restaurant that kind of made their way here, just as kind of a little nod to what was from the past. But this is not a lateral move restaurant. It is meant to be new, a little bit more grand, and a little bit more upgraded. And so the menu is reflective of that. And you'll see a lot of new items and things that will make new traditions here at the restaurant. Yeah.
Is it the same chef that was in the kitchen at Barilotto?
So actually, it's the same team that's from Barilotto.
Okay.
One of the changes that was kind of pandemic related here was my chef and I actually parted ways during the pandemic.
Okay.
You know, it was a little bit of a scary thing, but my chef and I are very close, and he is first and foremost, in what I say to everyone, a great human being. And number two, a great chef. And, there was some issues that were happening that were non-related to the restaurant. Obligations to have health insurance for children, and it puts people in a different perspective and a predicament.
Sure.
They need to make a change for themselves. And there was no hard feelings there. I still speak with him on a regular basis, and it was beautiful. He came like the second week that we were open, came to check on everybody. And he's grabbing his own opportunities right now that I will fully support, and wish him nothing but the best. So the interesting thing, kind of to answer your question there, is, a lot of people ask that is, who is the chef? And it's like, well, in any great restaurant, a chef is important, but what's more important is the hands that build everything.
Right.
And there's never, like I said, it's not just two hands. So do I oversee the kitchen? Yes. Am I utilizing that $65,000 CIA degree that I bought myself? Yeah. And it's, it feels really good. It feels really good to be in the kitchen with my guys. The first month that the restaurant was open, no one saw me in the front. I was in the back making sure that the food was delicious. It was properly cooked, and things were done the right way. The one thing that I always talk about is that we know that the restaurant will be pretty, but this will never become a restaurant that is just pretty. It has to back it up with equally delicious food. And the resonating kind of feel that we've been getting is that it is. And their experience here at Il Figlio is even better than what they had at Il Barilotto, which is a very satisfying compliment to get, because it is a kind of a litmus test of my work that I'm putting in here, which is a lot of work. It's
when I first moved to the Hudson Valley, when I was on the fence about should I move up here from Westchester or not, one of the week I was making that choice, I went to dinner at Barilotto at the bar, and I had this wonderful, it was a what's the word I'm looking for? It's not zuppa di pesce, it's like the Italian
like a brodetto.
The brodetto, like this wonderful seafood and a little bit of chorizo. I still remember that. And I had this fabulous glass of wine, and I was sitting there in a lively restaurant, and people were enjoying themselves. And that was one of the clinching moments for me, was to know that, the restaurant scene was so important to me, and I had so many favorites in Westchester, and I came up here, and I remember just that experience, like, this could work. I really do like it up here. And this restaurant is great. And I admire that menu. Just so many things on it that I would order, and the ability of the specials is so creative, and the pastas, and the people I speak with regularly would claim that to be one of their favorites. So I think the anticipation for Il Figlio, the bar is high. People are itching to go out in general. They're going to get their vaccinations. The herd immunity's here, and for many, this could be their first time out to a restaurant.
It is.
And I bet your place is right there on the list to go.
Yeah. That bar is set really high. It makes my job really challenging, but it's also very rewarding. Last night I had a couple coming in. It was their anniversary. It's their first night out in a year. And they said,
fabulous.
This was just such a treat.
And they must have relished just being out of the house and having that restaurant experience.
Yeah.
And I know that you're so generous to the community, as many of your restaurateurs are, and people often overlook that part. If there's a charity or something like that, you guys are the first to give gift cards and make food, and I'm excited for the community to give back. I'm excited for them to get back out there and support local restaurants, especially new restaurants, excited for them to get back there.
And they are. We have been, every single person that works here has been so incredibly thankful, and no one's more thankful than me. When I see a busy night here every night, I am grateful, not just because I know I can pay my bills, but it is a testament to people are coming back out, and I see better days ahead. It's giving a reward to the fact that I'm working so hard. I have like bags under my eyes. I don't sleep. I'm here every day.
It's a good thing you got that espresso machine, right?
Exactly. but it's great. It's very rewarding. You know,
So you've been in the Hudson Valley restaurant scene for a while now. I mean, if your job back at Aroma goes back to the late 90s and being a student at culinary, what do you think the evolution has been? Are there things that remain consistent? Are there things that have evolved? You're in a unique position to comment on it over this really a long career.
Well, so there's some interesting things that are happening in the Hudson Valley. It's become this very popular destination in certain pockets for New York City. My wish is that New York City would expand its pockets of interest and see a little bit more of the Hudson Valley. I think there's a lot more to see. You know, I would love to see some more relationships with these great farms and local restaurants. You know, everything is a business. So I see a lot of 845 area codes at the Union Square Green Market where they can sell that produce for a lot more money. And I get it. And, you know, I don't disagree with it. But what I see is a lot of people making a serious change from New York City and establishing a life up here, whether it be a couple days a week or full time. And that's very refreshing to see because it's, I mean, not in every case, but it is a very sophisticated palate kind of luring themselves up here and establishing a home for themselves. And that means that there's a demand for what I'm doing. So it's almost like a little bit of an insurance policy. And I love seeing that because, you know, 10 years ago, you know, who knew about, you know, was Beacon as hot as it was today, for example? No. I love having that kind of New York clientele come up here and say, wow, this is just as good as if I was in New York City. You know?
Are you originally from the Hudson Valley? Are you?
No. I'm a native New Yorker, born in Rochester. My parents are from Long Island.
Okay.
I was raised in the Midwest, in Minneapolis and Chicago. And then when I came back out here, I was 18 to go to school, and I never left New York.
So your first arrival in the Hudson Valley was from the culinary?
Yep, exactly. And to be honest, not a great one. I was living in, you know, Hyde Park, and I wanted to get out of here. Every weekend I was leaving. I was on Priceline.com wanting to go home to Minnesota like every other weekend. And I think that was partially due to just like the social setting of school and not having like great friends and things like that. It wasn't until I moved down to like Southern Dutchess County that I really started finding like my true love for the Hudson Valley. And it is so special. And during the pandemic, I had time to really explore things that I never ever had time to do, whether it be hiking or went foraging for ramps and stuff like that. And it made me really appreciate where I am, not only for location wise during a pandemic, but Hudson Valley is just amazing. Yeah. It's an amazing place to be. Yeah.
So in many respects, getting that job at Aroma is kind of the first anchor.
Yeah.
That would become your next, you know, how many years? 30 years.
Yeah, it definitely placed me in New York, but it definitely, that job at Aroma placed me in the right place to learn how to become someone in the restaurant business. You know,
how did you know you wanted to be a chef in general?
Oh, I was watching cooking shows on the Discovery Channel since I was 10 years old, like going into the kitchen and burning everything. And then I'd garbage, and my mother would yell at me because I ruined it. And she's like, no, you can't throw it out. We have to save it.
You got to eat it now.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, I loved doing that.
Any shows in particular that you really liked?
Oh, it was The Great Chefs on the Discovery Channel. Yeah, I think it was Discovery. It's no longer on. Yeah, this was way before Food Network. I'm going to date myself.
Were your parents cooks at all, or
my mom
food
was a decent cook. My aunt was an amazing cook.
Okay.
My family was amazing at making reservations.
Okay.
We entertained really well during the holidays, but there wasn't strong family cooking traditions. And I think being around like Catholic traditions in an Italian restaurant made me really fall in love with food.
Okay.
I didn't grow up with those traditions. Like, for example, we're coming up on Easter on Sunday, and, you know, you're not going to hear this too often that a Jewish kid loves Easter because it's his favorite food holiday.
The pizza rustica.
Yeah, I got 4 of them in the oven right now that I made this morning. You know,
beautiful.
Everything. You know, we got 2 cases of beautiful lamb chops that just came in. I got pastiera for dessert. Just like all the spring vegetables, you know,
How,
those.
I'm gonna ask you. My family never did. I mean, my mom makes an amazing pizza rustica.
Yeah.
And she got the recipe from air quotes Big Edith Romano, which is, I guess, when you say big or little, was the older, younger. But this is a 100-year-old recipe. We're still making it. It's still amazing. And my wife's family, also Italian, they were doing things Easter related that my family never did. So I'm curious if I'm going to ask you, trying to invalidate her family's traditions here. They make this bread soup. It's like a saffron bread soup with cheese on it.
Okay.
Is that past your traditions? I haven't really seen that one.
Not on Easter, but.
Okay. And then the other one is they call it the popokalova, which is like the hard-boiled egg and the candied bread.
Oh yeah, I've seen that.
Okay.
I'm gonna take a hard pass on that one. I'm just gonna stick to my pizza rustica.
I'm with you, man. I love pizza rustica.
It's my favorite thing. I make it every year. The whole staff here, they know.
Do you put hard-boiled egg in yours?
No.
Neither do I. Yeah, and I know that some people do.
Yeah, but it's great. I live for these traditions.
Well, it used to be like the shepherd in Italy would take a piece of pizza rustica and be able to wrap it up in a napkin and take it out into the field, and that would be a meal. It wouldn't just be an Easter thing; it'd be a regular rustic countryside meal.
Yeah, well, it's going to become my breakfast tomorrow.
I'm with you. I'm a huge fan. Breakfast, lunch, appetizers before dinner.
Yeah.
And how about for the lamb? Do you guys do like a lamb chops?
Yeah,
lamb shank.
We have the lamb shank on the menu. We're doing scotadito lamb chops, which means scorched finger. So they're like individual grilled lamb chops, and so when they're so hot, they're meant to be scorching your finger when you pick them up with the bone and eat them.
Oh, those sound fabulous.
Yeah, they're good. Yeah.
What's going on with the wine program at the restaurant?
So the program here, so everybody remembered Il Barilotto as having this really extensive wine program, and it was amazing.
Agreed.
My focus here was very different. It was more of an abbreviated wine list. I call it a SMART wine list.
Okay.
So the wine list is about half as big. It has a lot of little boutique kind of hand-picked selections by me. And it also has some non-Italian selections, which people were really looking for when they were at Il Barilotto.
Okay.
So that's kind of expanding, but the real expansion on the beverage program here was our cocktail program.
Okay.
So when people come here, they're going to see a much more expansive and much more serious specialty cocktail program rollout that has been just super fun. This restaurant is just wanting you to start with a cocktail and then have a glass of wine or a bottle afterwards. And the cocktails are amazing. Yeah.
Are you doing like specialty cocktails or just to focus on the classics?
We have a mixture of both.
Okay.
We have a menu of Negronis, and then we have 11 or 12 different specialty cocktails that we do that, utilize some Italian ingredients, some that aren't. But they've been wildly popular, and the spirits world is booming right now, and it's a trend that's not going away. And so we said we need to get on this train, and my guys here spent a lot of time working very, very hard to come up with a really inventive and very, very smart cocktail list, and it's a lot of fun.
So how are we making the house? I'm a huge Negroni fan. So what are we putting in the house Negroni?
We have the classic Negroni. We have a mezcal Negroni.
Okay.
A white Negroni. So all are equally delicious. It just depends on what you're into, and they're amazing. Yeah. So
Which just curious, what vermouth, what gin, what Campari? How are we making the?
with the Classico is going to be Plymouth gin. Which
Okay.
Not everyone's really familiar with. Really delicious. And then we're using the Koki sweet vermouth, the Torino sweet vermouth. Yeah, it's been kind of a staple in the restaurant for a long time.
Okay. Yeah, I'm craving this, man. I got to come in for some scorched finger lamb chops and Negroni, and we got our we're on the vaccination train. We got our first Fauci ouchie
Okay, I like that. I can steal that.
the other day, so we'll be coming in shortly. I can't wait, man.
Yeah, it's a great relief. it's interesting in the restaurant business. I'm not really here to chit chat about whether you believe in a vaccine or not. It is what it is. I mean, I'm fully vaccinated because if I went down, the whole ship was going down.
Yeah.
So maintain a healthy way. But it's beautiful to see the sense of relief, and especially older people that were so excited to come out, and they say, okay, it's been 2 weeks since our second vaccination. We're coming out and we're ready to, they're ready to re-enter life again, and, we want them to feel comfortable.
Good for them. I'm so envious of that, but grateful that they get to do it.
Yeah.
It's really fabulous. So, okay, you got this beautiful new restaurant. Let's do a hypothetical here. You're now ready to show off. If you could invite anyone, whether dead or alive, and we're going to have this dream dinner in your restaurant, who are we having for dinner and what are we making?
Because I haven't seen them yet.
Who's that?
My family.
Okay, your family. Beautiful. What are we making?
They haven't been able to come. They're not nearby.
So we're going to fly them in.
Yeah.
We're going to have a great dinner. It's going to be a Saturday night. What are we making for dinner for your family?
I'm going to let them dictate that, because every time I start ordering food for my family, they tell me they don't like this or they don't want that.
What's family for?
For arguing. That's what they're for. So I'm going to let them order whatever they want, but I want them here.
I'm sure they would love it.
My only wish right now is that, they're far away.
Are they still in Minnesota?
Yeah, I have half my family in Minnesota. The other half of my family is in South Carolina.
Okay.
And, so, they're not that far, but they'll eventually make their way. They knew better to stay away for a little bit while I was opening up. I can be a little bit of a monster sometimes. So they said, once you get things organized, we'll come and see you. So I'm really looking forward to having my family here.
Are you in there 7 days a week? I mean, do you ever get a day off?
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to take my first half day tonight.
Okay.
But the reservations keep on climbing and climbing. So naturally, I kind of want to stay here. I am, but that's the gig. That's what I signed up for. It's the line that I put my signature on. And you know what? It's okay, because it's here and it's here.
Yeah.
For me, and it's very rewarding, and I don't mind it. So.
Have you heard any, do you ever get validation from, is the Culinary Institute proactive and reaching out to their students, their graduates, and offering help or congratulations?
The greatest validation from the CIA is when I have an instructor that was one of my instructors that I haven't seen in a long time, and they come in and they tell me how impressed they are by things. It happened at Bariloto on a small handful of occasions. And it's very rewarding to know that, I was once a student, now I'm running an operation, and they approve of it. Not only do they approve, they come back again and again because they really enjoy it. It's very, 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 very satisfying.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. Do
they remember you from, I presume the burning of the food was left behind in Minnesota.
They
don't call you out and say oh, that time you did this
thing.
They're
very good at making it. Yeah. But they are very genuine. I'm very lucky to have had that opportunity up there.
Do you have any favorite teachers that might have come in, or anybody in particular?
It's not about favorite teachers. I think I am very thankful to have gone through, and those who have been around and seen the culinary through its time. I'm very thankful to have been there during the time of when the president, Ferdinand Metz, was there, because I think that, and it's just my honest opinion, that the culinary was a much different place back then. It was a time where it was taken with real serious regard. And not that it isn't today. I think it's just the CIA is a very different place, and it's producing something very different, neither bad or better, or better or worse. It's just different. And so I'm very, very thankful to have gone through that time period when he was there, because, it was not everyone gets a trophy kind of
right
time, and if you sucked, you needed to fix it and get better. You were held very much accountable, and it made me a better person. It made me a better cook. Taught me more about the restaurant business.
Do you think that carries over into the kitchen? And I know that there's some criticism for the classic, the classic French kitchen where, it's a volatile, possibly violent place.
Yeah.
Do things correctly or, you're out of here.
Well, you know what I think? I think like everything in life evolves and changes. So that whole mentality of that French style, having a saute pan thrown at you,
Right.
mentality, it's outdated and it's expired. But we still need to find that middle ground where, people actually want to work hard and find reward in hard work. It is no secret that most people that graduate the culinary actually don't ever cook after they graduate. I am running a business, employing guys in a kitchen where nobody wants to cook anymore. It's hard. It's hard to find people to do this type of work. No matter how nice you make it for them, no matter what type of perks you give them or try to make their life a little bit easier, go find a couple really good, talented guys that are motivated, that want to stand behind a 500-degree oven 5 to 6 nights a week and burn themselves. It's hard. It's really hard. So,
But that's what's required to get the results you're looking for. You need people who are going to work hard. It's not,
nobody's
certainly not a TV episode where everything is glamorized.
No. There's no fancy chef coats here. It's, just a lot of hard work. But my guys are amazing. They're good people, which is the most important thing. Yeah.
Well, Scott Rosenberg, thank you for joining Table Talk. We really appreciate your time today.
It's really nice chatting with you. And I hope I see you soon at the restaurant. And,
you definitely will, very soon. I was going to come tonight, but if you're not going to be there tonight, I got to. No, I will definitely be in there very soon. I appreciate it.